Welcome back to the Future Archive. Today, we examine archived broadcasts from July 21, 2026, pirate sports streams, a government reshuffle that baffled observers, a rare environmental victory, a record fine for a trade platform, and a social media giant's regulatory troubles. Each story reveals how institutions and technologies were colliding in predictable ways. The first story. Authorities shut down thousands of illegal World Cup streaming sites. During the 2050 World Cup, authorities across multiple countries took down over 3,000 websites hosting illegal streams of matches. The crackdown was prompted by complaints from rights holders, who noted that official broadcasts were losing viewers to these pirate sites. Fans, however, argued that the legal alternatives were nearly unwatchable due to AI-generated commentary, which many found robotic, inaccurate, or simply unpleasant. The enforcement action was widespread, targeting servers in Europe, Asia, and North America. Despite the takedowns, new streaming links reappeared within hours, highlighting the persistent challenge of digital piracy in live sports. This episode underscores a recurring tension in 2026, the gap between what consumers wanted and what corporations delivered. The backlash against AI commentators was a rare moment of public agreement. No one, it seemed, enjoyed listening to a machine misidentify players or narrate a goal with the enthusiasm of a tax auditor. By 2050, of course, AI commentators had improved, though humanity had largely stopped watching sports altogether. The crackdown itself was a classic case of the Great Spreadsheet Crisis. Authorities prioritized metrics, sites taken down over outcomes, piracy persisted. The only thing faster than the takedowns was the re-uploads. The second story. UK government creates AI minister role while dissolving tech department. In a restructuring move that left many scratching their heads, UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham's government announced the creation of a high-profile AI minister position, while simultaneously dismantling the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. The new AI minister was tasked with overseeing the UK's artificial intelligence strategy, a role seen as critical as AI adoption accelerated across industries. However, critics pointed out that the minister would now lack the dedicated departmental infrastructure previously in place. The decision was widely interpreted as a political maneuver, a way to signal commitment to AI without the budgetary or bureaucratic weight of a full ministry. This was humanity's favorite strategy in action, the symbolic gesture with no structural support. By 2050, historians would look back at this moment as the beginning of the UK's iPolicy whiplash, a series of half-measures that left the country playing catch-up with both the EU and the US. The dissolution of the tech department also foreshadowed a broader trend, governments treating AI as a standalone issue rather than an integral part of all policy areas. As for the AI minister, the role survived for 18 months before being quietly absorbed into another portfolio. A minister without a ministry is just a very well-paid opinion. The third story. Amazon deforestation and fires drop dramatically in 2025. For the first time in decades, Brazil's Amazon rainforest saw a significant decline in both deforestation and the area affected by fires. Data from 2025 showed a 40% reduction in tree loss compared to the previous year, along with a 50% drop in the size of areas burned. Environmental organizations celebrated the news as a potential turning point, attributing the change to a combination of stricter enforcement, international pressure, and economic incentives for sustainable land use. However, conspiracy theories quickly emerged, with some fringe groups claiming the data was fabricated or that the fires had been suppressed to hide evidence of illegal logging. This was a rare win for both policy and the planet, though it came with the usual 2026 caveat: progress was met with skepticism. The improvement in the Amazon's health was real, but it was also fragile. By 2050, the rainforest had stabilized, though not without further crises and reversals along the way. The conspiracy theories, meanwhile, were a reminder of the era's distrust in institutions, a theme that would only grow more pronounced as misinformation tools became more sophisticated. Still, the 2025 data offered a glimmer of hope that concerted action could make a difference. The Amazon finally caught a break. The Internet did not. The fourth story. EU fines AliExpress €550 million for hosting illegal goods. The European Union imposed a record €550 million fine on AliExpress, the global e-commerce platform, for failing to prevent the sale of counterfeit and banned items. The EU's investigation found that the platform had repeatedly allowed vendors to list products that violated intellectual property laws, safety standards, or trade restrictions. Analysts noted the irony. AliExpress, a platform built on the promise of borderless trade, had been penalized for failing to respect the very trade laws that enabled its existence. The company responded by pledging to improve its moderation systems, though critics argued that its business model inherently prioritized scale over compliance. This fine was a milestone in the subscription wars, as platforms were increasingly held accountable for the content they hosted. By 2050, such penalties were commonplace, though the scale of this fine remained notable for its time. The case also highlighted a fundamental tension in global e-commerce. The efficiency of open marketplaces clashed with the need for regulation. AliExpress, like many platforms, would eventually implement more robust controls, though not without grumbling from vendors and buyers alike. The EU's action was a rare example of regulators keeping pace with corporate growth, if only briefly. Global trade met its match, a determined bureaucrat. The fifth story. TikTok faces investigation over child age verification failures. UK regulator Ofcom launched an investigation into TikTok over its failure to verify the ages of its users, which had led to widespread underage exposure to inappropriate content. The probe was sparked by reports that children under 13, a demographic legally prohibited from using the platform, were easily able to create accounts and access the app's full range of features. TikTok defended itself by citing algorithmic uncertainty, arguing that its systems were not designed to perfectly distinguish between age groups. Parents and advocacy groups, however, countered that the platform's business model relied on maximizing engagement, regardless of who was on the other end of the screen. This investigation was a preview of the regulatory battles that would define the late 2020s. By 2050, age verification had become a standard, if imperfect, requirement across most platforms, though the debate over responsibility, platforms versus parents, persisted. TikTok's defense was telling. The reliance on algorithms to solve human problems was a hallmark of the era. Evidence later suggested an intern had once proposed a manual verification system, but the idea was dismissed as too costly. The case also underscored a broader truth. In 2026, technology was moving faster than the safeguards meant to contain it. The algorithm knew what they liked, just not how old they were. Today's stories reveal a world in 2026 where institutions struggled to keep up with the pace of change, whether in sports, governance, the environment, or technology. The past, as always, is not going anywhere. This has been the Future Archive.